Did Lindsay Clancy really do it? If you're anything like me and you've been living under a rock for the last 6 months, well, you wouldn't know anything about the Lindsay Clancy case. So if that is true, then follow along in the video and get to know the case. So the story really starts in 2016. Patrick and Lindsay Clancy get married. In the year 2023, they move in together in Duxbury, Massachusetts. It's said to be at this stage that they have the perfect life. They also have 3 young children. And when I say young, all 3 children are under 5 years old. Lindsay, following the birth of her 3rd child, was said to be going through quite a tough time. She was struggling with postpartum depression and she was taking medication. In January 2023, her mental health got so bad that she checked herself in to a psychiatric hospital. At this time, she advised that she was having intrusive thoughts of hurting herself and her children. And of course, this didn't go unnoticed by her husband, Patrick. They lived together, so he was aware that she was struggling and he was aware that she had checked herself in to a psychiatric hospital. On the day of this horrendous ordeal, Lindsay Clancy had taken one of her children to a GP. Following the GP appointment, she arrived home and she asked her husband, Patrick, to attend the pharmacy and to pick up some medication that had been prescribed for her child. And so this is where the case starts to unfold. Patrick leaves the family home, leaving Lindsay and her 3 children in alone. He takes what is a short trip essentially to the pharmacy to pick up his child's medication. It's reported that once he gets to the pharmacy, he tries to contact his wife Lindsay via phone. Lindsay didn't pick up the phone call on the first 2 occasions, but eventually once he got through, he explains that Lindsay seemed to have been in a bit of a rush. And so shortly coming off the call from Lindsay, Patrick picks up the medication from the pharmacy and he begins to make his way back to the family home. At this point, he's unsuspecting of the horrendous ordeal that he's about to encounter once he arrives home. Patrick, well, he explains that once he arrives home, he notices almost immediately a shattered top window and his wife, Lindsay Clancy, laying on the floor underneath the broken window. And so it's reported that, of course, he approaches Lindsay and he asks what has happened. It's again reported that she has a conversation with Patrick and she explains that she's tried to unalive herself and essentially thrown herself through the top window. During this conversation, he asks her where the 3 children are. She goes on to explain to Patrick that the 3 children are in the basement. Patrick then enters the property. He makes his way down to the basement to find that his 3 children are down there, 2 of which are deceased and 1 of which has been seriously injured. The police and emergency services, they arrive at the scene of both Patrick and Lindsay Clancy's home. They find that Lindsay Clancy has suffered significant injuries, meaning that she is fully paralysed from the waist down, which essentially at the time is thought to be caused by the fall from the top window. They unfortunately also attend the basement at the property to find again that 2 of the children are deceased and that the other child is seriously injured. Although this other child was rushed to hospital, it was sadly announced that they also passed away. Subsequently, there is now a trial ongoing into the death of the 3 children. You might be watching this video thinking, well, it's quite obvious from the story that you've just advised, why would there be a trial going on? Well, the trial is going on essentially to deliberate if Lindsay is found guilty of this horrendous crime, and essentially whether she would have been in the right mindset at the time due to her mental health, which essentially could mean that her mental health could be used as a defense. Now, of course, like anybody else watching the trial or keeping up with the case, there are a lot of theories that are ongoing. Could the husband, so could Patrick, have done more to protect his children and ultimately to protect Lindsay Clancy? Other reports are suggesting that could Patrick himself actually be involved in this horrendous crime? So there are some theories that I'd be happy to break down that are trying to suggest that it's Patrick that's actually committed this horrendous crime and not his wife Lindsay. I think what is important to remember is that from the very facts that we know, Lindsay Clancy was suffering with postpartum depression and significant mental illness, to the point of which she had checked herself in to a psychiatric hospital in January of that year. She had reportedly told and advised her husband Patrick that she was having these intrusive thoughts of hurting both herself and the children. Ultimately, that is what took place. At least that's what's been reported that took place. So could Patrick, a father, a husband, have done more to protect both his children and his wife? Another aspect of the story to quickly break down with you is the conversation that Patrick had apparently had with Lindsay Clancy after returning from the pharmacy with the medication. Patrick explains that he had such a detailed conversation with Lindsay. Patrick tells the story that Lindsay explained that she had fell and chucked herself from the top window, sustaining these brutal injuries. He explains that Lindsay had told him that the children were in the basement. However, to go against all of this, upon the emergency services arriving at the home, they found that Lindsay was paralysed from the waist down. They found her delirious and unable to string a sentence together. So again, could Patrick have really had such a detailed conversation with Lindsay upon returning from the pharmacy? It may be possible, but again, you've got to think, would she have deteriorated so much to the point of which she's almost unresponsive and almost unable to string a sentence together before the emergency services arrive at her home? There are so many theories and so many unanswered questions. What really is important to remember is this was essentially a perfect family. Patrick and Lindsay had married, they'd had 3 children, they'd moved into a home together, they'd created something amazing. From the facts that we know, Lindsay Clancy suffered from mental illness. She had tried to gain support. That was obvious from attending the psychiatric hospital early January 2023. But was the support there in terms of her home life, and was the support there from Patrick? Should he have really left Lindsay with the children on her own? And this comes from the basis that she had explained to Patrick that she was having intrusive thoughts about harming herself and the children. There's a degree of this of which I'm open to, in the sense that maybe he should have been there to protect her and to protect the children. But there's also elements of thinking that you can't be in one place 100% of your time. Yes, he has a duty of care, but to what degree is he expected to be with Lindsay at all times? There are many questions and many answers to uncover. I'm going to continue posting about this case as it unfolds. Let me know in the comment section down below what you think about this. And do you think Lindsay Clancy really did it?